So I'm 8 years old, and I'm with my sister and my cousin Bonnie in our garage. And it feels like electricity is like running throughout my entire body. And I look at myself in the mirror and I think, Spencer, you look amazing. To the left of me, my sister is looking in the mirror doing her makeup, and Bonnie is painting my fingernails, and I'm wearing like this white sheer nightie with a tie in the front. And then to the right of me is this pair of clear high heels with silver sequins. And I can't wait to put them on my hands because we're putting on a play. And it's gonna be awesome. So as I start to put this blue eyeshadow on, the screen door to the garage opens and I hear my dad say, "Hey, what's going on out there?" Now, my dad is the kind of guy that waves to his friends by giving them the finger. And then he's got one joke that he tells everybody all of the time, even if they've heard it before. He'll say, "I can't wait for tomorrow." And then when you say, "Why?" he says, "'Cause I get better looking every day." So my dad comes out into the garage, he takes one look at me, and he says, "What are you doing? Boys don't wear makeup and paint their nails." I freeze. My face gets really hot. I feel embarrassed and panicked, and I look at him, and I say, "Well, we're putting on a play." And he was like, "So you shouldn't be painting your fingernails, and boys don't wear makeup." Just then my mom comes out and says, "Kenny, he's fine." And they both go back inside. But I'm embarrassed that my dad just called me out in front of my sister and my cousin. And I'm also confused because why is something that brings me so much joy bad? And then I feel shame because I know to him, these things are bad. And although he didn't say it, I felt like it disappointed him, and I didn't want to disappoint my dad. Now, it wasn't just my dad that was like giving me a hard time for liking things that were girly, whatever that means. All through school, and specifically in grade 6, I would be out at recess and people would say, "Why are you hanging out with the girls? Are you a faggot? Why are you in choir? Boys aren't in choir. That's so gay." I remember thinking, this is so stupid. Like, why are these things bad? And besides, I had a girlfriend. Her name was Jessica, and we were going out. And just a week prior to that, we had gone to Joyce's Subs for a sandwich, so... Okay, so we were 12, and we had no idea what going out was, and my mom had to drive us. But I had a girlfriend. Now, it was always so confusing to me that people would say these things to me, and I was always the first boy to have these experiences. I'll never forget our first all-school dance. Literally all the boys just stood against the wall, looking at the ground, and I was like, oh my God, this is so silly. So I like roll up and I ask Allison, "Would you like to dance?" And she says, "Sure." And we dance, and then magically all the other boys were like, "Oh yeah, I guess we could say that too." Now, I know that I was into things that not a lot of other boys were into, and my dad was constantly reminding me of this. And not explicitly or intentionally, but my dad was into hunting and fishing, and as a kid it was fun to go with him because I wanted to hang out with my dad, but as I got older I was like, I don't really want to kill things, and I think fishing is super boring. And my dad was also a huge basketball star in high school, and I always felt a little bit like I might have disappointed him because me being his only son wasn't into sports. Now, that being said, I had so much more in common with my mom. We loved to go shopping, and we listened to Cher's Heart of Stone album on cassette tape on repeat for years. Now, I never thought that I would never meet another person, specifically a boy that was into the same things that I was into. And then I met my friend John. I met John in grade 7, and he was also into choir, and he had girlfriends, and he also loved playing with my sister's Barbies. I was thrilled that I met another boy that was into the same things that I was. And John had this way about him where he was very kind and soft-spoken, and he would greet you by saying, "Hey, hon." And he got teased even worse than I did. One day we were on the playground, and I heard a kid from across the playground go, "Hey, faggot." And I was like, if you call my friend a faggot again, I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm literally 2'7" tall, and I don't have any legs. Like, what was I gonna do? Punch him in the nuts and run away? One evening, I was out in the front yard with my sister playing, and my dad was in the garage, and I heard my dad say, "Spence, come here. I want to ask you something." So I go in the garage, and I'm like, "What's up, Dad?" He says, "I want to know, are you fagging out on me?" I freeze. My face gets hot. I feel embarrassed and panicked, and I think, quick, just say something. And I'm like, "What, Dad? No, what? Why?" And he replies, "Just checking." But in my mind, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm getting this at school, and now I'm getting it at home from my dad? Like, this is fucking exhausting. However, a few months later, I meet Marcy. And Marcy and I do more than get a sandwich. We fall in love. She's my first kiss. We fool around. We talk about getting married and what our kids' names are going to be and what our life is going to be like. And we last more than a sandwich. And all through school, as it continues to progress, we stay together. My last year of high school, I'm at home with my family. And the news is on. And a story comes on that we all are familiar with. Because up until this point, no one cared about the state of Wyoming. But we recently made national news. Because a few days prior to this, two guys at a bar offered to give a university student named Matthew Shepard a ride home. But they didn't take him home. They drove him out to the middle of nowhere. They beat him beyond recognition, and they tied him to a fence and left him there. The anchor comes on and says, "Sad news out of Wyoming tonight, as Matthew Shepard has died." The police are now calling this brutal attack a hate crime because Matthew Shepard was gay. I freeze. My face gets hot. And this time I'm terrified. This is only 4 hours away from where I'm living in Wyoming. And it was the first time where I realized, oh, the world isn't always a safe place for everyone. Matthew Shepard is also the thing that John and I keep being called at school. So I find myself moving through the world differently now. I stopped playing with Barbies. I don't talk about musical theater as much. I talk about dating girls more, all in hopes to be seen more masculine and to feel more safe. I go to university in Salt Lake City, Utah, a very religious town. And the first thing that I noticed when I moved there is everybody's obsessed with dating and being a couple. Now, I have to say that Marcy and I broke up because we both were going to different universities in different states, and it's sad, but it's the right thing to do. So I'm working at Old Navy while I'm going to school, and there's this girl that works there, and I ask her out on a date because she's really fun, and we have a great time, but there's not really anything there. And I go on dates with other girls, but I'm not really feeling any feelings that I think you need to have in order to have like a relationship with somebody. And so I'm thinking, I'm just this like evolved guy who like isn't into beer or going to the bar, and I like to talk about feelings, and it's just gonna take me like a little longer to find someone. I finished my first year, and it was pretty shitty. I had tough roommates. I failed a class for the first time ever in my life. I changed my major. And I was having a hard time like dating in general. I go finish my second year, but this year's a little bit better because I moved off campus, I've got my own apartment, and that summer, John comes to visit me. And we're sitting on the balcony outside having a drink. And he turns to me and he says, "By the way, I have to tell you something. I think I'm gay." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. This is amazing, and thank you so much for telling me." And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And I noticed that there's a new confidence about him that he's never had before. I go back to school and things feel even harder. School feels harder, dating is not going well. I'm trying to balance going to school and working at Old Navy. And then something shifts. One night, I'm in my bedroom, and I'm sitting on the ground, leaning against my bed. And there's one light on, and it's one of those like bedside table lamps with a little black knob on the top that you turn to turn it on and off. And it's like right on me as if it's like a spotlight. And it's really hot in my room because it's winter outside and I need to turn the heat down. And I'm holding the phone in my hand and I'm thinking, just dial the number, just dial the number, just dial the number. I get up the courage to dial the number, it starts to ring, and I think, fuck, 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 fuck. And then I hear, hello? And I say, hey, John, it's Spencer, how are you? And he says, hey, hon, I'm good, how are you? And I say, I'm fine. And I take a deep breath. And I say, I think I'm like you. And he says, well, what do you mean? And I take another deep breath and I say, I think I like guys too. And I freeze and my face gets hot and I feel embarrassed and panicked. And then John says, oh, honey, I'm so happy for you. And it's like this burst of sunlight and energy explodes in my stomach and travels up my chest and comes out of my whole body. It's like shooting out of my face and I'm like smiling and crying at the same time. And then I just crumble. Because I can finally let go of this thing that I've been carrying for so long. And I think this is the start of something new. A few months later, I'm holding the phone again, and it's Father's Day. And I think, okay, he's not gonna mention anything, it's gonna be fine, but maybe he will, but maybe he won't, but I don't know. So I dial, and it rings, and I hear, hello? That's literally how he sounds. And I was like, hey, Dad, happy Father's Day. And he goes, all right, thanks for calling, bud. Now, a few weeks prior to this, I had called my mom and told her that I was gay. Now, 90% of me thought that it was gonna be okay, but there was 10% of me that was like, oh, I don't know how this will go. And she was supportive from the very beginning. And she said, I love you, and it doesn't matter. And I asked her if she would tell my dad. So I know that my dad knows. So before I can say anything else, my dad says, I just want to say, you're my son, and I love you. And you could never disappoint me. And I love you. And then before I can say anything else, he says, but when are you going to adopt me some goddamn grandkids? Thank you.